The Cardinals return home for a pretty key homestand on Friday. Let's talk about a lineup intricacy that has been revealed. What's going on, everyone, and welcome into this edition of B-Schaeff Daily. Brenden Schaeffer with you. It's Friday afternoon, April 11th, 2025, so the game is coming shortly. You may not get a chance to dive into this before we see the way it all plays out, but I saw the Cardinals release the lineup for Friday night, and we've been curious what may happen to the lineup spot for Willson Contreras, given the struggles that he's had recently, the notion that the Cardinals want to kick things off with a left-right alignment, or you could go right-left, right? But the fact that you've got, I guess I should have said correct instead of right on the last moment there, but you know what I meant. You have Lars Nootbaar batting leadoff. That's something the Cardinals are keeping consistent when he's in the lineup. You did see Victor Scott II as the leadoff batter for one game, but Nootbaar was out for that one. So if he's going to be your leadoff man, it is the left that comes first as you go LR. The right-handed batter that has been basically in that spot for the majority of the season so far when he's in the lineup has been Willson Contreras. But with the struggles of Contreras offensively, it has now become a topic, right? At first, it's a few people going, maybe they should move him down in the lineup. You go, well, come on. I mean, Willson Contreras is a proven commodity. He's a known quantity. We know what he is. We know what he's going to be. But 22 strikeouts and 54 plate appearances. He's hitting just 102 with an OPS of 313. He's struggling, right? He's going through it. There's no denying that. It was a short-term thing, but now it's like, okay, 12 games have elapsed that he's participated in, and the Cardinals are a little bit below 500. 12 games is whatever percentage of the season it is, a 13th, a 14th of the season, whatever it is. Like, it's a decent sample size in a chunk to say, okay, this player is really struggling, and the Cardinals are trying to find ways to get Willson Contreras going. And there's almost definitely more going on behind the scenes than we see on the surface. That's something that I think is important to remember every single time that there's a player circumstance that we're talking about. It is fair to acknowledge that we're not ever really going to have the full scope of the detail. And so we might be able to say, oh, well, they should do this, and it should seem so abundantly clear to us on the outside. But then there are times where there's information that comes out later where you say, oh, that's why they didn't do it that way. So I just want to add that as the caveat to begin all of this. But my point is they're trying to find ways to get Contreras through this and get him out on the other side, ideally that coming as quickly as humanly possible, because he figures to be a pretty significant component of the Cardinal lineup as we go through the rest of this summer. But part of that strategy has been taking some things off his plate. So he was only DHing the last couple of games in Pittsburgh. Today, he's not in the lineup. Even though the Cardinals had an off day on Thursday, it'll be another day off for Willson Contreras, at least from the starting lineup. There was an instance on the previous homestand where they tried to do that, and at the very end of the game, they had to go to him as a pinch hitter because the situation demanded it in extra innings. Today, we'll see if it ends up being a full day off for Contreras, just to kind of clear his head, right? They're in communication. Oliver Marmol, the coaching staff, Willson Contreras. You don't want to make something bigger than it is, but at this point, you want to make sure that you're putting your player in the best position that he feels he can succeed. So if an off day is what they've designed for that, I'm sure Oliver Marmol will speak on it. We'll be asked about it this afternoon by the reporters at Busch Stadium. For the clarity of my situation, I'm at home doing my radio show for KTGR from 4 to 6, and so oftentimes on these weekdays, I don't have the opportunity to make it to pregame. I am going to try those Saturday morning to cover the pregame to be able to be as plugged in as I possibly can be, right? Now, we'll see what ends up getting said about this Willson Contreras day off coming after the off day for the team on Thursday, but I imagine it's pertaining to that, right? Just trying to get him into a position where he can clear his head and be ready to rock and roll. It's the reason they were DHing him, we presume, a couple of times in that Pittsburgh series. But the long story short is, how are the Cardinals going to adapt? Well, right now they're not dropping him from the lineup, at least Friday, because he's not in the lineup. So it's not that he's down in the batting order. But the way that they have decided to adapt their lineup to accommodate that situation and maintain the balance with the left-right alignment at the top is Jordan Walker's getting the bump up. He is going to bat second on Friday night in the Cardinal lineup, which I think is really interesting. We've seen Jordan Walker look pretty good at the plate so far this season, and I'm really excited to see kind of where his bat fits into the mix when you bump him up. His numbers the last couple of games have kind of dipped. His OPS down to 737, but he got off to a strong start. The strikeout numbers are not overly glaring, but, it's around 25%, so probably a little higher than what you want. but I think that's true, again, across Major League Baseball for a lot of guys. We haven't seen a ton of power from Jordan Walker, no doubles or triples. He does just have the one homer, but the on-base percentage is .378, and you talk about trying to get table setters in this Cardinal lineup to be able to allow the guys in the middle to drive them in. They're going to use Jordan Walker as a table setter for at least Friday night's game against Aaron Nola. I am very intrigued to see the way that it might go with Lars Nootbaar at the top, Walker second, and Brendan Donovan, who I predicted would have a good road trip and a good series in Pittsburgh, and that is exactly what took place. And he's going to be the designated hitter for the game on Friday night, with Alec Burleson playing first base and Thomas Saggese getting into the lineup at second. So this is a lineup that we have not seen before from the Cardinals this season. Nootbaar, Walker, Donovan, Arenado, Burleson, Pages, Victor batting seventh, Saggese, Mason Wynn off the sheet, and then he's, of course, a right-handed batter that turns it back over to the lefty, Lars Nootbaar, at the top. I'm curious what Cardinals fans think about this lineup going into Friday's game. If you get a chance to take a look at this video and get your comments in, would appreciate hearing from you. And, of course, we cover the Cardinals on a daily basis here on B-Schaeff Daily and on the Brenden Schaeffer St. Louis Cardinals Writer YouTube channel. So if you appreciate that content, give us a sub. Make sure you like this video, and you can consider in the video description below checking out our channel membership for additional support of the content here on B-Schaeff Daily. But my biggest takeaway looking at the lineup is certainly the opportunity for Jordan Walker, because we have talked about for the last couple of years this notion that the Cardinals are kind of nitpicking his swing, right? They want him to hit the ball in the air more. They want him to become more of a power threat consistently. And it really was something that in his initial rookie season, he was able to produce with 16 home runs and 19 doubles. And then, he had the struggles that a lot of players do as a sophomore when in 2024 he had to go back down to Memphis. He had a lot of conversation surrounding the lack of line drive and home run power. He hit just 5 home runs at the end of the overall campaign with St. Louis. Of course, there were a lot of time spent with Memphis as well in that 2024 season, but it was a while down there with the Redbirds before he really got going and hit his first home run of the season. I know it took kind of a length of time for him to do that, and he spent the majority of the year with Memphis. 377 plate appearances there, only 178 with St. Louis, 9 homers with Memphis, 5 with the Cardinals, and ended the season with St. Louis with a 619 OPS. So certainly a precipitous decline compared to the 787 OPS that Walker put together in 2023 with the Cardinals. And there were a lot of reasons for that, I'm sure. And look, Walker coming into this year talked a lot about just kind of getting back to the basics on what makes him good and what with his swing can be effective and successful. And obviously, everybody's got their varying opinion on the way the Cardinals, I use the phrase nitpick. I don't know if that's the right word to use, the right terminology. You can let me know how you feel about it. But I know a lot of Cardinals fans look at the way that Walker's swing was addressed and put under the microscope last year and said, whether it's on the ground or in the air, this is a guy that you want to be able to feed into and pour into and get the most out of him. And maybe the approach the Cardinals took last year wasn't one that allowed him to be successful, because it could be one of those things where you're being told from so many different directions, kind of, here's what you're doing wrong, here's what you need to do, kind of hyper-analyzing everything, which is what coaching is about to an extent, but also you have to kind of be able to cater it to the responsiveness that the player is going to have and be able to channel it in a way that can be productive for all parties involved. And so whether or not the Cardinals really maximized that last year, I know has been a topic up for considerable debate. And I would say that without, knowing all the specifics and ins and outs of exactly what went down, it clearly didn't produce the results last season. And so you have a new hitting coach at the big league level for the Cardinals this season. Jordan Walker has worked with Brant Brown, had good things to say about his interactions with Brant Brown prior to the season. And now we're seeing Walker, early on having a pretty good skill of getting on base to a 378 clip. We haven't seen a lot of that power materialize, but that's an example of maybe you're just 11 games into the season, and that's going to happen more as time goes on. But I like where the Cardinals are at with it, because you can have Jordan Walker, if he's getting on base to that clip, just be one of the guys that you want to bat as early and often as possible in your lineup and see if he can get on base for some of the guys behind him. Speed is not a huge element of Jordan Walker's game, but getting on base, we know, is a skill that matters in this game, and we'll see if that is something that can happen tonight for Walker as he sort of fills that Willson Contreras role, at least for now. Let's say Walker has a nice night. Does that sort of become the natural way to shift Willson Contreras down in the lineup if Walker performs in the role that he's in right now with the 2-hole on a day that Contreras is going to have off, is it then a lot simpler to sort of put Contreras, either in Walker's area of the lineup, which was down closer to 7, or do they bump him to the 5 spot and have a couple of righties with Arenado and Contreras back-to-back in the lineup? Depending on the way they want to do that, we'll see. They seem to probably like what they're getting from Brendan Donovan in the 3-hole, and it, again, maintains that balance at the top of the order. So there's a lot of different ways that this could go, but I'll be curious to see what a potentially productive night for Jordan Walker could do for his prospects to remain in the top third of that batting order moving forward. You can let me know, Cardinals fans, in the comments below what you think. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel once again, or you can follow B-Schaeff Daily on Spotify. I love to see Spotify listeners, for folks that, just want to be able to turn the screen off and not have to worry about the way that without a YouTube Premium subscription, you have to keep your phone battery on and your phone screen on. We do have the exact same content often posted to Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So consider searching for B-Schaeff Daily on those platforms and trying out that listener experience if you prefer it. But that'll do it for this quick edition of the show. I know that I didn't have one Thursday night, but there was no game to talk about and felt like just getting something on here in the afternoon to discuss what everybody thinks of the lineup would make some sense. So let me know your thoughts below, and we will talk to you next time on B-Schaeff Daily. Peace.